This series is the story of the new amphibious Arctic vehicle project named Bernard. Building on ideas, skills and questions raised during the Allen lifeboat conversion, as a team we will share all those moments needed to get Bernard up north onto the ice and making himself useful. Okay, just one job today. It's going to be reasonably loud in here because of the gas heater. Today we need to laminate a layer all the way around the perimeter of the mould using glass fibre. Now I have the tent propaned up to a half decent temperature, all of the edges need to be laminated with various sorts of composites fabric tape I have lying around. The thickness will be in excess of the carbon shell and I want to do them first. That's an okay temperature, but the humidity reading is a little misleading due to the positioning of the meter near a condensation-strewn inner tent fly. Heat was needed elsewhere too, as the resin was being kept stored not in worryingly cold conditions, but lower than you'd want to mix and use it in. A gentle heating inside a makeshift mini-warming tent does the job for these pre-weighed pots of Gurit epoxy resin. It got up to 15 degrees in there, and I kept the temperature constant for an hour or so in the expectation that the half kilo of resin in each pot warms through. Let's get one on the go. Quick point, I specifically use polyethylene clear wrap for these temporary lids. Although not intending to make them wait a few weeks before use, this superior film has done the job. Zero moisture ingress. Here's the extra slow hardener going in at the very precise 100:26 ratio, and now a very thorough mix and preparation, vital since their storage has not been perfect. No, the resin is not normally greeny yellow. We added pigment a while back as I intended to colour code the laminate layers. It will need a little bit of extra mixing because we're down towards the lower end of the working temperature. But yeah, that's good healthy resin, just as well because it's quite expensive. Now for the tape, and I might be cheekily using the flat interior space of an area that I just... Oh, no, you'll just have to wait until later in the video to see what. Anyhow, 090 plain woven glass tape will be the first order of the day, as I have a long roll of it. And I turned them yellow, as well as doing them 2 each in each stack. Light glass fibre wets out with resin, even coldish epoxy like this, very fast. So it's easy to wet out 2 in one go and save precious time. My instinct for how much resin cloth needs to not be dry, but not be swimming in £20 per litre resin is improving. Delighted with my work, I could roll them up for transfer to Bernard's tent and get them over there where podcasts were of course playing.
It's not really a terrorist organisation in the way it's been defined, even though that the...
I hope and indeed trust he was not referring to the audience and membership of this mighty channel. Not all of the layers are thin conformable glass, and I want to get the thickness of this perimeter up somewhat. So I have some 600 GSM carbon glass biaxial too, but still plenty of cheap glass to lay down. So that's all gone pretty well. I'm using mostly leftover rolls of glass fibre. This one's a biaxial mix of carbon and glass. It's just stuff I've got lying around which I don't think I'll use for anything else. And so I'm using it if it's got approximately the right width. And I'm probably going to chop this one down the middle because it won't right angle over the edge particularly well because it's a bit stiff. So I'll probably just chop this one down the middle and then use it as a stiffener on the flat part, not the one rolling over the edge. I'll probably just search around for more conforming glass fibre to do the edges. Anyway, I'm going to manually wet lay it down around the 2 angles, from the vertical mould and then over the lip of the wooden former. By the way, why epoxy for this basic job? I have loads of it, it's dimensionally reliable without warping, and it's a good fit for carbon and glass. Some of the more complicated areas like the rear corners and the drop down around the mould's nose need shorter sections. That's no drama, you just have to do overlaps and lose about 10% of the stiffness that you would have compared to continuous pieces. Plenty more carefully laid up plies. I think we'll aim for about 6 layers, far less thick than you'd do if you were using chop strand matte mould making fibres, but this is much higher performance reinforcement. In news that we can all celebrate at our leisure this Saturday evening, I did that a number of times. I'll probably do 5-6 layers of that. It's only about, I worked out about an hour to do a full circuit. It's pretty fast. If you do all the wetting out with resin all in one go, then just pick it up and lay it on. It's actually quite straightforward. So I'll carry on doing that now and doing some more chopping with my now extremely aging, these used to be Kevlar shears, but they've now been downgraded to cutting anything. There's no way that these would cut Kevlar now. Now for the bigger update, live from torrentially rainy but still delightful England. We have pretty filthy weather today for one of the big loads being taken to my new workshop. That's right, we are doing something of a staggered upgrade. We're not moving everything over lock, stock and barrel right now, but over the next few weeks as I finish off the mould in the tent, Wow, there is some special driving today from people who are determined to crash. Wow, van drivers. That said, I'll be a van driver in a few days' time again. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting, and so that's why I've been slightly distracted from the work at the yard over the last few days. But I'm sort of, you get that awkward thing where you're having to maintain a set of tools, chargers, all that sort of thing in two different locations, and so I'm hoping the transition period won't go on for too long. Anyhow, we'll be there soon. I'm not going to tell you where the workshop is for security, safety, respect for my landlord, and all that good stuff. I did all of the packing up of one of my boatyard containers and won't inflict you with all those juicy details, so back to the final bit of the drive to our new home. Not too far now. It's not taking that long to drive here actually, it's just it happened to be getting dark whilst I was driving. Anyways, this is the final load for the day, and I'll give you a little bit of a walk around when we get there. There is a lot of stuff just sort of sat on the floor because I have not put together all the racking yet, and so stuff is strewn all over the place, but it is actually in some form of order. Anyway, hopefully it'll give you a sense of the space and what we're going to be able to be working with, and we can finally start getting the heat on and we can get the dehumidifier on. It's going to be a revelation. This, people of the channel, is our niche flavour of revelation, with most of the storage area racks on their sides initially, not a permanent arrangement. In the other longer storage zone there's tons more space and even some tree leaves. Those were not included in the tenancy agreement, but I do get to keep them. I supplied my own timber, for we have much to screw together. Welcome, welcome, welcome to half of the new workshop. And yes, there's a lot of stuff on the floor at the moment which I need to organise, but I thought this would give you a general sense of what we're going to be looking at here. There's going to be a graphic that I can share with you to give you a rough sense of how I want to lay the whole place out and divide up, in particular of this sort of square zone, the left and the right. Anyway, over that side is going to be Bernard's area. That's going to be just long enough for the Bernard mould. It really is a seriously large mould and easily wide enough. This area is going to be the working, machining and general sort of activity area. Next door in the other storage area is going to be literally just racking and where I put everything. And so both areas should be heated. They are insulated. There's these are double thickness walls with foam insulation in the middle, which is fantastic news. There's something upstairs which I won't tell you what it is for, again, privacy reasons, but that means that upstairs is also insulated. And yeah, this is one hell of an upgrade. The electrics have been properly plumbed in and not merely a spur from a domestic ring main or even an extension cord draped across a boatyard. I'm planning to have power in a few areas not already served, and a simple and quick method will be to run some AC cables around the perimeter of the walls. If I'm happy later on, I may put in permanent trunking, but clever cable tidy clips are for now. On this back wall here, you can see I've started to put up some framing. This is going to be a composites fabric rack, so there are going to be various different notches all the way down from the lightest to the heaviest down at the bottom. That's also going to be the brace for what's going to be a divider. I'm going to put up, using my ubiquitous CLS timber lengths. I use this timber for almost everything because it's about £3 a length. It's 2.5 meters long, and it's just great value, really strong, easy to screw into. You don't have to pre-drill before you set screws in. It's just really good stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to run a frame all the way down the center of this area here, and that's going to mean I can have a dusty area on the other side, and this will be a clean area, and I will put a dust sheet, a polythene dust sheet all the way across the middle with obviously gaps so you can get through. But it just means that I can then do dirty work one side whilst not worrying about clouds of dust ending up on the other. But it will still allow natural light all the way through from the window and from the two opening bays into the main section. My minus 40-degree freezer is over in the corner there. That's going to be for testing plastics and metals and cold stuff and testing how different materials expand and contract at temperatures around each other, all sorts of good stuff like that. But yeah, there's probably a good day's worth of sorting, organising which racks are going to be for what, so I can be more organised than I was before. Everything's, labelled and boxed up properly, but I just want to be extra organised to save that time that you sometimes do waste wondering where on earth you put something. And I'm particularly going to enjoy having access on both sides of my 5 metre laying table. So the table that's in my second container at the yard right now, so sort of the low, long, wide table, which is for rolling out fabrics and so on, that can run right down the middle, so I can access it from both sides, and that's going to be an absolute That's going to be a joy. I'm then going to put my machining table over against the side here, and that's where we can have pillar press, basically power tools all set up, vices, everything ready to go there. Above that is going to be lots and lots and lots of lightweight racking, which is going to be for storing ready to use composite fabrics. They don't need to be that tall, it just needs to be able to take lots of layers of fabric without each one getting squashed, and that will go all the way up that wall. And the lighting, you can probably tell that there's a difference in lighting going on here. I think VoiceOver Alex will explain what I've done there. The ceiling lights were of course already there, and to be honest were below underwhelming, but they did seem fine I guess for the previous tenant. They are aging, down-market, energy-saving fluorescent bulbs, which are inefficient compared to modern LED bulbs. This is my replacement, which as you can see is rather brighter, whilst drawing half the power of those CFL ones. As mentioned, these are not to be my primary lights, but they still do have a CRI of 90. That's the percentage of the daylight spectrum of light that they can reproduce, and so they provide much more natural light. In the main workshop you can see the difference. Old on the right, and the camera sensor is having a real job working out the colour processing palette to use, but then the new LED on the left. Much better. I also have a massively cool plan for how I'm going to make this whole area really good for filming. This is kind of just temporary at the moment. It's going to be, I've been slightly inspired by Alex Steele's lighting setup in his workshop. Obviously his is a proper light industrial unit, but it's just really, really sweet for filming. I think I should be able to achieve something nearly as good here. Enough of lights for now, we can start to make the place more like home. Starting with the gift plate I was given by a Canadian friend who runs the Winter Ice Road in the Northwest Territories. Shall I do an episode about my team's experiences training on that? Yes? No? Tell me in the comments, at least semi-politely. And also some decoration. 3 large new matte prints to be mounted on the walls. In fact, members of the channel and most of the tiers of membership got an advanced viewing of all of this, and indeed the prints, some weeks back, so if there's no better use of your time in the next 10 minutes, do go and sign up as a member. Upper tier or lower tier or somewhere in the middle, all of it will support the work that we do here. Anyhow, I think along with that minor update that I've done from the yard, that will hopefully set your tongues a wagging, and I will chat to you in the next one. Bye.